Hi guys, Matt Easton here. Recently I've noticed a few people talking about a differentiation between tools and weapons, and this is fair enough. There are some things which are clearly tools, such as a spade or a shovel or a hoe, which can be used as weapons. Okay, clearly you can hit someone with a shovel, you can hit someone with a hoe, so to speak. And you know, very obviously anything could be used as a weapon. However, there are some items which clearly fall into this category of we're not really sure whether to call it a tool or a weapon, or whether it's just both. Okay, one of those would be an axe. Okay, and now very clearly there are some axes which are made as tools and some axes which are made as weapons. Yes, you could probably use the one which is made as a weapon as a tool, although in most cases they wouldn't act as a very good tool. And I'll just talk about that for a moment. I've noticed that there's a perception amongst people maybe who haven't looked at many fighting axes that all axes could be used for chopping down a tree, and that just simply isn't true. If you look at a Persian fighting axe or indeed a Danish, a large Dane axe, a two-handed sort of Viking style axe from the 10th, 11th century, they are actually really badly made for chopping down a tree, for the very simple reason that the blades are too thin. So generally speaking, the difference between a tool axe and a fighting axe is fighting axes are generally made lighter than you would want for using as a tool, because of course people don't require as much metal in an axe to fight against, and indeed you want the axe to be light and more manoeuvrable. And I'll talk more about Dane axes in a future video actually, but if you're ever in London, visit the Museum of London, which have a very good collection of original Dane axes, large Dane axe heads that were dredged out of the Thames, that probably relate to an attack on London Bridge in the 10th or perhaps early 11th century. And it's very interesting to look at how thin the blades are. They're not thick like a wood chopping axe at all. So most of the modern replicas of Dane axes are way too heavy. Anyway, bringing it back to the original topic of the video, tools and weapons. I've noticed a few people describing kukris, amongst other things, as tools rather than weapons. Well, I'm somewhat unconvinced by how much of a tool kukris actually were. I mean, there's a huge variety in kukris, and very clearly you can use most kukris as a tool if you want to. But the majority of antique kukris were not made as tools, they were made as weapons. So actually the vast majority of old, what I would call vintage kukris available on the antique buying market at the moment are 20th century ones. They might be First World War, Second World War, some of them are earlier than First World War and some of them are between the wars, but basically all of those were made as weapons. Yes, you can use them as a camp tool, of course you can cut string, of course you can cut twigs or chop up a rabbit or do whatever you need to do with a knife. They are a knife. However, they are principally made as sidearms, as weapons. And if we look at 19th century kukris, this seems to be even more the case. Now there are some kukris which are very simple, got very basic blades, very basic wooden handles, and essentially are cheaply produced, and these indeed may have been villagers' tool come weapon come whatever you want it to be sidearms. Okay, so essentially like a field knife, a camping knife or a hunting knife. However, there are a lot, and I would contend even you know, perhaps at least half of 19th century kukris that are around today as antiques to buy are very clearly not made as tools. Okay, this has got a highly decorated metal handle, this kukri. This has got a slightly decorated blade with a little sun symbol, which is a symbol of Nepal there. And this is actually quite a simple blade, but I have other examples which I'll show in probably future videos, and I may have shown some of them in past videos, that have got even more ornate blades than this. And very clearly, whilst you could use them as a tool, they were principally made as status sidearms. Okay, and this is very much true of some other Southeast Asian knives, certain types of kris and bolo and barong and parang and and so on. So many of these sidearms, as I would call them, were made as sidearms, and yes, you could use them as a tool, but they're not optimized as tools at all, and there were cheaper, more disposable versions perhaps which were used as tools, but many of these high status things were made to show off, and they were made ultimately as weapons primarily. Okay, so there we go. My contention is that most kukris are actually, I would describe them as a weapon rather than a tool, and I would transfer that assertion to certain other Asian short sword knives as well. Thank you.